Okay, so the last section that we're doing is section 415, at least for this quiz. Dividing polynomials, and I put right there long division because some of the times you're just going to divide them a little easier. Sometimes you're going to do long division. So we're going to start off with the easier types, and then we'll move into the long division. Okay, so it's kind of, there's not much that you have to do in terms of learning new content in this section because you guys already know how to do most of this. But let me just remind you of a couple little things. Okay, these are just reminders. All right. So one thing you guys are supposed to know already is that when you have two terms that have the same base and I have you multiply them, then what you're supposed to do is keep the base but add the powers. Okay? Now that's great, but we're not really going to use that today. But that's an important thing for you guys to know. Okay? Another thing that's really important for you guys to know is that when you have a base to a power raised to another power, so it's x to the m to the n power, then that becomes a product, x to the m times n. And that's really good, but we're also not going to use that today. Okay? So let me show you the third one, which we are going to use today. Okay? So, when you have x to the m divided by x to the n, well, you're going to keep the same base. So again, I'm using a letter, but it could also be numbers and stuff like that, the base. But you're going to subtract. Okay? You're going to subtract. This is the one we're going to be using today. Okay? So just to kind of highlight that to make sure that you guys know, like, this is the important one. I mean, granted, the other ones are important too, but not really so much for today's lesson. Okay? For today's lesson, we're going to be using that for at least 3 of the problems. Okay? The other ones we're not, because we're not going to be multiplying anything. We're not going to be taking things from powers to other powers. This is called dividing polynomials, so we want to know what happens when you divide stuff, right? So that's why I wrote that one. Now remember, if you're dividing the same base, you're going to subtract the powers. So here we go. Example number 1. I'm just going to put divide. Okay, so just a basic division. We're going to do 2 of these examples. One of them will be from your homework. One of them will not be from your homework. Okay? So here we go. If I write something like this out, so all your problems will look similar to this. 4x to the 4th minus 6x to the 3rd plus 3x to the 5th divided by, we'll say 2x squared. Now these are supposed to be the easy ones, okay? This is not long division, okay? But these are supposed to be the easy ones. Now, here's the key. You guys notice how right here, there's only one term, a monomial, okay? Just one term, okay? So this is a monomial, all right? If you're dividing by a monomial, you do not have to do long division, okay? And actually, let me put right here, no need for long division. Okay, so like I said, these are supposed to be the easier ones because you don't have to use long division. The reason why you don't use long division is because you're dividing by a monomial, one term. Okay? So what you're supposed to do is basically get every term on the left side and divide it by 2x squared. So you're going to write it like this. 4x to the 4th over 2x squared minus 6x cubed over 2x squared plus 3x to the 5th over 2x squared. So notice I did the division to every single term. And now I'm just going to do like 3 little mini problems. Okay? So I separated it, and now I'm going to do 3 mini problems. So look at the first one, 4x to the 4th divided by 2x squared. Well, what's 4 divided by 2? 2. And what's x to the 4th divided by x squared? X to the 2nd. Remember, 4 is the power and 2 is the power, so 4 minus 2 is 2. So that's x squared. Good. Minus 6 divided by 2. What do we get there? 3. What is x to the 3rd divided by x squared? X to the, say it again? The 1, right? X to the 1st. So it's just x, right? X to the 1st. All right, this next one I did it on purpose. 3 divided by 2. Can I do that? I mean, I can write 1.5, but I'm not. I'm going to leave it as a fraction. 3 halves. What's x to the 5th divided by x squared? To the 3rd. Okay, so that's going to be x to the 3rd. And I'm done. Now, this is not a homework problem, but there are problems like this on your homework. So right now we'll do a homework problem. Just the only reason why I'm not doing a lot of them is because they only give you 3. So I don't want to do like 2 of them, and then that means you only get to practice 1. So I'll do 1 of them for you guys. But that's pretty straightforward, right? Just get your monomial and just divide each term individually. Okay, no long division required because it's only one term you're dividing by. Okay, now this is actually considered a hard one in terms of monomial division. Okay, there are easier ones. And let me show you one of those. So again, this is from your homework, all right? So 2b to the 4th plus b to the 3rd plus b squared divided by b squared. So notice I'm dividing by a monomial again. Okay, let me highlight that. One term division does not require long division. Okay? It's just when you get division by a binomial, 2 terms, then you got to do long division. Okay? So here we go. I am going to rewrite this, okay, just like I did the previous one, like split it all up. So 2b to the 4th over b squared plus b to the 3rd over b squared plus b to the 2nd over b squared. All right, so I split it up. Now, notice, am I dividing by any actual number, not letter, but just number on the first portion, the 2b to the 4th over b squared? Am I dividing the 2 by anything? Other than a 1, I guess, if we want to be very specific. No, right? There's nothing dividing the first fraction. 2b to the 4th divided by b squared. I'm not dividing 2 by 2 or 2 by 4, right? Nothing. So I'm going to leave it alone. 2. Now, what's b to the 4th divided by b squared? It's b to the, someone say it? The 2nd, right? I think I heard someone say 2, but I wasn't sure. Plus, now the middle fraction, there's no big numbers in the front, right? The coefficients, no coefficients. b to the 3rd divided by b to the 2nd is b to the 1st, so I don't need to write a power. Last one, b squared divided by b squared. They all cancel out, so what's left? Because I can't just not write anything. So what do we put? A 0 or a 1? I see David are putting 1. Yeah, there's a 1. Okay. The reason why there's a 1 is because, guys, you can't see it, but there is a 1 over 1 in front of there, right? We just don't write it. Okay. So all that would be left is 1 divided by 1, which is 1. Okay. And that's it. You're done. Are we okay with these? So these are not supposed to be the tough problems. They only gave you 3 of those out of the 8. Then they give you 5, which are the long division problems. Those are a little bit weirder. Okay. Again, I know you guys know how to do long division, but It just looks a little different. But I want to remind you of it. But before I do that, any questions on this this part B or part A from the example? All right, so let's look at a really quick reminder. You don't have to write this down if you don't want to. It's up to you. All right, if I were to ask you to get 257 and divide it by 2, okay, and I know that we're going way back to like, I don't even know, when do they learn this stuff? In like 5th grade? 4th grade, right? We're going way back, all right? But I just want you to understand the process that you did, okay? And you're going to do the same process in this portion of algebra. So what you would normally do is you would ask yourself, okay, how many times does 2 go into 2, right? So you'd say, oh, that goes in 1, right? And then what would you do with that 1? Well, you would get the 1 and say, well, 1 times 2 is 2, right? What was our next step? Subtract. You do 2 minus 2, you got 0. And then what would I do next? Bring down the 5, right? I would drop the 5, and I would ask myself the next question, how many times does 2 go into 5? 4 times, right? So you would write 4, and then you'd say, okay, 4 times 2, well, that's too much, right? Are you saying 4 as in I should get a 4 when I multiply by something? Okay, so good. Yeah, it's going to be a 2, right? So 2 times 2 is 4, okay? And then I'm supposed to subtract, right? 5 minus 4 is 1, and I drop the 7. So now the next thing is, how many times does the 2 in the front go into 17? Well, that goes 8 times. 8 times 2, notice I'm multiplying it, right? Is 16, and I subtract again, and my remainder is 1. Okay? Now, I don't know if they taught you guys this, but many, many years ago, you were supposed to write it like this. You guys remember doing that? 128, remainder 1? Okay, that was the easy way to do it. Maybe your teacher said, well, that was great, but your answer is actually 128 plus a half. Anybody have a teacher that made them do that? Okay, where do they get the half? Well, the 1 comes from here. The 2 is from there. And that's the way we want to write our answers, okay, for this lesson. We want to write it with a fractional remainder, if there is a remainder, okay? But I just wanted to highlight it there for you guys so you can see, oh, that's where he got that fraction plus the half, okay? But you guys definitely should remember this process of division, right? You would check, you multiply, you write it down, you subtract whatever was left. Again, you multiplied and kept going until your number ended, and then you wrote your remainder, okay? So this is old school, 4th grade, maybe 5th grade. I don't know when you guys do this. I know my wife right now is teaching her 3rd graders how to multiply numbers with 3 digits, and that's 3rd grade. So I don't know if they'll do division there with 3 digits, maybe. So maybe this is from 3rd grade. I have no idea. I don't know the standards for those lower level classes. But I know it's somewhere around there, 3 to 5, somewhere around there, 3 to 5th grade. So, I mean, it'd be nice if this was the questions on our lessons, but they're not. Okay, the questions on our lessons look like this. So here's example 2. And we'll do 2 of these and then we're done. Okay, and these are coming straight from your homework. I'm going to do one that's a little on the easier side, one that's a little bit on the harder side, okay? So we're just going to put divide. And I'm going to put right here long division. Now the nice thing is if you don't like long division, the next time I teach a lesson, I'm going to teach you guys synthetic division, and you should like that. That's way faster, way easier. Okay, but sometimes synthetic division doesn't work, so you have to learn how to use long division. So here we go, part A. Oops. Again, these are both part of your homework, okay? So 3r squared minus 2r minus 2 divided by r minus 1. So you should be able to see why I can't just break this apart into small little pieces, because notice this is not a monomial that I'm dividing by. I'm dividing by r minus 1, two terms. Once I start dividing by two terms, I need to use long division. Okay? So that's the big difference. This is how you can tell whether it's easier or it's going to be more work. Okay? So your first step is to write this out the way you would have done the old school problems, right? If I remember the one I just did, what did I do? Like 257 divided by 2. And then I wrote it as a little setup, right? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write 3r squared minus 2r minus 2. And I'm going to divide that by r minus 1. Okay, I know it looks really weird, okay? But we're only going to focus on the first terms all the time. Every step, we're going to look at the first term that's next, okay? So I'm doing a little squiggly line. I will eventually erase it, but I'm just trying to bring your focus to that. All right, so r and 3r squared, okay? R and 3r squared. What do I have to multiply r by to make it look like 3r squared? Say again? A 3r, yeah, a 3r. So let me put 3r right here. Okay? Now remember, I'm supposed to multiply, right? I'm supposed to multiply. Whatever I put up on top has to multiply. So 3r times r is 3r squared. 3r times negative 1 is negative 3r. Now let me get rid of this little squiggly line right here on the right side. But I just distributed it, okay? That's all I did. 3r times r is 3r squared. 3r times negative 1 is negative 3r. What am I supposed to do next? If I'm doing long division, after I put a number on the bottom, After I put a number on the bottom, what am I supposed to do? Subtract, right? Remember, we're doing the same process. It just looks really weird, but it's the same process. So we're going to subtract. All right. What's 3r squared minus 3r squared? It goes away, right? 0. All right, next part. So this is going to cancel, okay? What's negative 2r minus negative 3r? No, you're minus a negative. Negative 2r minus a negative 3r. The minus a negative becomes a plus, right? So that's really good. That's going to be really a positive 3r, so it's a 1r. Okay, so let me write it to the side. Negative 2r minus a negative 3r. That's what I'm saying. So this is negative 2r plus 3r, which is a 1r. That minus sign in the middle is going to be tricky. So you have to be careful with it, okay? That little minus that I circle, say it out loud sometimes. That way you can say, okay, minus a negative, oh, that's a plus, right? All right, and I'm supposed to do what with that negative 2 at the very end now? I got to drop it, right? So let's drop it. Minus 2. I'm going to get rid of that 1 just because I don't like the way it looks. R minus 2. All right. Here's my next squiggly line. Remember what I told you? We're going to focus on the first terms. Okay? So, what do I have to multiply this r right here? What do I have to multiply that r by in order for it to look like this r right there? By 1, right? So, I'm going to put a positive 1. Now, I'm going to only distribute that positive 1. Okay? I'm only going to distribute this positive 1 here, and there. Not the 3r, just the 1. So 1 times r, that's r, and 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. All right. And what do I do now? Subtract, right? What's r minus r? That's 0, right? Because it's gone, right? R minus r is 0. Negative 2 minus a negative 1. Negative 2 minus a negative 1. Negative 1. All right. I'm done. Okay, I'm done with this problem. Let me write my answer. My answer is this part up here. This is your solution. We call that our quotient. Okay, so 3r plus 1. That's my solution, 3r plus 1. My remainder is this number divided by this number. So it's going to be negative 1 over r minus 1. And this is my answer. Now this one was an easier one. Okay? We're going to do a little harder one right now. Okay? All right, so let's do the last example here. Okay, so let's start writing this out the way it's supposed to look, right? So the 4x cubed minus 8x squared plus 5x minus 5 goes on the inside here. So 4x cubed minus 8x squared plus 5x minus 5 inside. And on the outside, 2x minus 3. Now remember, you're going to focus on the first. That's usually what I say. Focus on the first. So the first term here and the first term here. I need 2x to become a 4x cubed. Okay, I need 2x to become a 4x cubed. What do I multiply by? Think about it. I need 2x to become a 4x cubed. So what should I multiply 2x by so that it becomes a 4x cubed? 2x in the power of 2. Perfect. There you go. All right. Now you're supposed to distribute this answer, okay, right here and right there. So let's do that. 2x squared times 2x, that's 4x cubed. 2x squared times a negative 3 is a negative 6x squared. Now I'm going to erase the little squiggly line because I don't want anybody to think that we're dividing. And we're going to subtract. 4x cubed minus 4x cubed is 0. By the way, that's supposed to happen. You're supposed to cancel out the first term. If your first term survives, you multiplied or divided, you multiplied by the wrong thing, okay? So make sure that it always cancels out the very first term. Now, the next part, negative 8x squared, let me write cancel here, negative 8x squared minus a negative 6x squared. That's minus a negative. That really means plus. Okay, so what's negative 8 plus 6? Negative 2, thank you, negative 2x squared. And now I get to drop the 5x. So I'm going to drop the 5x. And I'm going to ask myself the question again. Let me do the little squiggly line here. I have a 2x on the outside. I want it to become a negative 2x squared. What do I multiply it by? I want a 2x to become a negative 2x squared. Any idea? I want 2x to become negative 2x squared. Well, if I want 2x to become negative, what should I multiply by? A negative, right? And if I want the 2, notice the 2 doesn't change. It's 2 and 2. And my x has to become an x squared. So what should I multiply x by? Another x, right? So I want to multiply by negative x. Okay, if I get 2x times negative x, that's equal to negative 2x squared. So I'm going to multiply by negative x. Now again, I'm going to get negative x and distribute it, okay? Negative x is going to distribute into 2x minus 3. So let's do that. Negative x times 2x is negative 2x squared. And negative x times a negative 3 is a positive 3x. Let me get rid of the squiggly line here. And I'm going to subtract. All right, well, negative 2x squared minus a negative 2x squared is going to actually cancel out, so that's gone. 5x minus 3x, well, that's 2x. And now we drop the very last part of this, the minus 5. Okay, so last question here. So there's my squiggly line on the very bottom. I want the 2x up there to become a 2x. Well, is there any change? 2x to become 2x? No, so what do you multiply it so that it doesn't change? Times 1, right? So I'm just going to do a positive 1. Okay, and now I have to multiply a positive 1 times 2x and a positive 1 times a negative 3. Remember, you got to distribute. The new number you put in, you got to distribute it into that portion in the front. So 1 times 2x, that's 2x. And 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. I'm going to subtract this. Let me get rid of the squiggly line there. So 2x minus 2x is 0. Negative 5 minus a negative 3. What do I get? Negative 2. And I'm done. Okay? This one's a harder one because it has so many terms. Okay? But I'm done. So here's my answer. My answer is this part right here. My quotient. Okay? So it's 2x squared minus x plus 1. And now I got to write my remainder. Okay? So my remainder is going to be this number right here, negative 2, over this number right here, 2x minus 3. So, negative 2 over 2x minus 3. And this is my answer. Again, I know these problems are a little tough, so I mean, if you're struggling with them, I mean, tomorrow's a review day. You can tell me, Mr. V, instead of reviewing, can you go over question number 5? Can we go over question number 7? Okay, number 8. And that'd be fine, because that's reviewing, right? That's part of what you have to know how to do for the test. Your test has 8 questions, okay? It has a couple like this, not this difficult. I think they're a little easier. But it has a couple where you have to do long division, a couple where you have to do the smaller type of division. And then I think the other side has to do with the stuff you did on Friday. There's a total of 8 questions. That should be more than enough for a 50-minute period. So that just, we'll review tomorrow and try to do as much as we can. If I'm correct, tomorrow is a late start. All right, so tomorrow's a late start, so we only have 35 minutes, so we got to fit in whatever we can. Okay?